Good evening, everyone. I'm Nathan here with my wonderful wife Laura.
Hello.
And we're going to do a quick review of the Fortnite Monopoly Edition.
We are. Now you're thinking, okay, there's going to be a few things changed and it's just going to have, you know, Fortnite images and things and places, but oh no.
No. So yeah, it's one of those ones where it could have just been its own game rather than sort of a Monopoly tie-in, but we will get to that in all good time.
Yeah, it's got a whole bunch of different stuff. The board is slightly smaller, like there's less locations, and a whole bunch of different factors.
I would like to preface that neither of us have played Fortnite. I was more of a Team Fortress person myself. I do know a little bit about it, but if I get some terminologies wrong, please forgive me.
So, yes. So the idea of this is to obtain locations and battle your opponents to take down all of their HP or health tokens.
Hit points, what do you want to call it, and then basically it's a round robin, whoever's last standing wins.
No, it's not a round robin. It's just whoever's last standing is the winner. Now, this is a bit weird. So Nathan just took off the lid, and then there's a cardboard-like insert that just takes up the whole thing, which is kind of unnecessary because if you have the lid on, then I don't know.
Sounds a bit excessive, I think, what Laura's trying to say.
Yeah, it's more than you need. Alright, so we will have a scan of the Fortnite Monopoly instructions in the description after we sort out how we're sharing those, because there's a few difficulties we've had.
We'll get to there.
It will be down there eventually, because in this case, you need them.
So
you need those rules to play.
Let's take all these pieces out and we'll go through them one by one, shall we?
Alright, so should we start with the board?
We'll start with the board.
Gives you, I think, the best idea of kind of what you're working with the game. Alright, so as in pretty much every single Monopoly version, we have the same four corners.
Go, jail and just visiting, free parking up there, and go to jail.
In the middle, there's no image in the background, which is unusual for these. Usually, a lot of them have a picture of something to go with them.
Yeah, it's fairly plain, but the other thing that they don't have is they're not named, the two draw piles.
No. So you can just put them whichever side you prefer, the two decks. Now, you'll also notice that some of the... they're called locations. So forgive me.
If we interchange between property and location.
Yes. Some of the locations only have two, whereas normally they would have three. That's obviously to shorten the length around the board. They all only have two, as standard here.
So basically all of the locations or properties are all locations within Fortnite, I am to assume.
Yep. They also have a negative value on each of them. We'll get to that, but that is relevant. And they go up around the board, so like the value is higher.
Yeah, so -3, -4 on the higher properties.
+1 here, our bonfire gives you 1 health. Health is actually the currency in this game instead of money, so very important.
We have the loot.
Is it loot chest?
I think it's
loot chest.
Loot chest, so you can pick up a item which will help you in your quest to dominate the other players.
Yes. So,
I just want to focus, does it?
So the loot chests are one of the decks of cards. There's no chances and community chests in this one. It's a loot chest. We then have the spike trap, which is a -1. If you land on that,
you lose a HP.
1 health. Yep. Alright, so coming around, and then we kind of repeat everything essentially, aside from the different locations, of course. There's no utilities.
No utilities, they're just spike traps.
Watch out for those. Coming around. Now you're probably thinking, okay, so there's loot chest spaces for the loot chest cards, but there was 2 spaces on the board for cards.
Well, the other one is the storm cards,
which you might be able to see here. So going past go, you don't get $200 because there's no cash in the game.
You get 2 HP, which is the effective of getting $200, but in HP.
Yep, and it also says storm because you have to take a storm card every time you go past go as well.
Now, from my limited knowledge of Fortnite, I believe as a match goes on, the storm starts enclosing on certain locations, thus sort of...
the eye of the storm gets smaller.
Yeah, so you get less room to play in until eventually everyone's eliminated. Same thing here, eventually as you go through, all the locations start becoming covered with the storm cards, which basically destroy the location and deal HP damage to if you land on them.
Yep. Okay, so it does have 1 standard die, but then we also have a special Fortnite version. These are stickers that have to be stuck on when it was purchased. So each of these does something different, and you roll this every single turn, just along with the number 1.
So basically you roll it, and then you can actually take this in either, you can either take your movement first or the action or vice versa, but it depends on... There's a reason that you want to do it in either or order, depending on what...
It can be strategic, yeah, depending on what you get. So we'll go more into the particular Fortnite dice in a minute, but let's have a look at the playing pieces.
Yeah, so
there's a lot.
these are player costumes.
Yes. So you pick a costume to play with. No, you know, little pewter collectible pieces or anything like that here. These are all double-sided cardboard.
And these don't affect play, just purely cosmetic.
Yep. We also have bases that go underneath them. They're just dark blue plastic. You slot your cardboard in to move around.
So I'm just going to quickly go through them. I think this board game came out several years, so probably a lot of these are either not available or hideously outdated.
I think there's another Fortnite.
I think you're right
Monopoly
too.
Version, so maybe that's the updated one. I'm not sure.
So there you go. There's plenty of players.
And they are the same, no matter which side you're looking at. And they're all cut with like a diagonal sort of on top as well.
A bit irritating actually, try and stack them all together, but there you go.
It's weird sitting down to play Monopoly with like a tall playing piece, because obviously the little pewter pieces in a regular Monopoly are quite tiny, so...
So basically, yep, when you first start, you pick your playing piece and you don't all start on go.
No.
You have to jump out of the battle bus.
Of course. So you roll the die, everybody does at the start of the game. Highest number gets to choose where they land when parachuting down. You can start anywhere. You could start free parking if you wanted to, or on a spike trap, which won't affect you, by the way. Wherever you start, you do not have to follow the instructions on that space.
But obviously you probably don't want to be too close to your fellow competitors because they have a chance to actually damage you, which we'll get into shortly.
Yes, so you're actually, the idea is to battle each other as well as obviously survive the things going on the board and the cards. So do you want to grab the health?
They're just
Tokens.
round tokens. At the start, you start with 15 of these each, representing your hit points. You can't go above 15.
No. So there are ways to recoup your health, and, you know, if you land on something that says, hey, gain 2 health, and you've already got 15, well, too bad.
Yeah, pretty much.
There. Yeah.
So basically, you roll, you land wherever you want, you get your 15 HP, and then you basically keep going around the board until someone is being defeated.
Yep.
You can do that in several different ways.
Yes, well, I mean, you have to get the health down, but first thing is, when you land on any locations or properties, as I keep trying to call them, you get it automatically. You do not have to pay for the locations. So these values on here are not purchase
They're not
prices.
currency, no.
Okay, so Nathan has the deed cards, I guess.
The deed cards.
Yeah.
So, for instance, say you landed on Lazy Links, you would get that card.
Now, then it has a little bit of info at the bottom. They all have this. When another player lands on this location, they must pay 4 HP to the bank.
Not to the other player, because obviously you're not paying someone hit points. That doesn't make any sense.
You can't pay someone your own health, essentially. No. Now, this value on the card matches the ones on the board. It's just obviously for reference, so you can quickly check like what cards you have. These cards are also meant to be at the very start of the game, set up around the edge of the board here, so you can see what has already been claimed and what hasn't. Obviously, if you don't have enough room for that, you know,
but I
leave
mean,
them in a pile.
it does make it easier.
Yes.
So basically, you land on that, you get this. If I toddle on over here, I would then have to pay 4 HP to the bank.
Yes. So yeah, I don't really benefit from having that, but obviously it saves me from landing on somebody else.
It does benefit you if you happen to have both the same colour. If you happen to land on it and you have both the same colour, you actually gain
2 health.
2 health.
2 health.
Not 4.
No.
It's 2 for all of them.
Yes, so yeah, so if I owned Lazy Links and Tilted Towers, I land on one of those, great, that helps my health. If I only own one, it does nothing. It's just kind of a safe space, nothing's going on there.
So you're going around, you're getting properties, fantastic. Shall we talk about, I suppose...
Well, how about we talk about
the die.
Special one.
Alright.
Alright, so each of these then has a function. So this one is fairly straightforward, that gives you 2 HP. So you just get it back from the bank of health.
Provided you're not over the 15.
So really useful if you are low, not so useful right at the start of the game, which we rolled a lot at the start of playing it, which is pretty unfortunate. Alright, then we have the crosshairs here, and that is attack.
So basically you can,
battle.
yes, battle, attack, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you happen to be in the line of sight of another player, so for instance, say...
Let's grab a couple of pieces and give you an example. Hang on, we didn't have our bases prepared.
Oh no.
Alright, so perhaps I was here. I've just picked up my Lazy Links, and then Nathan, say you've rolled crosshairs. I'm in your line of sight. That means I'm on the same side of the board as you.
Which means if I was here, I could see both this side and this side.
Yes, obviously you can't go to jail.
No,
but if you're on a corner, you have 2 lines of sight. So that's quite advantageous, but obviously you have no control over whether that happens.
So I can choose to go, I'm going to attack you, and I deal, I believe, 1 HP of damage.
Yep, so I get 1 HP and put that back into the bank.
Unless we have item modifiers, which we'll get to shortly.
Yes. Now, this is where strategy, like which dice you play first, comes into play. Well, hang on, without that one, but say we were here and Nathan had rolled a 6 and the crosshairs. If he moves 6 first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I am no longer in line of sight and I cannot attack you.
Exactly. So Nathan would want to say, I'm using my crosshairs first, I lose my health, and then he would move his 6.
Speaking of opportune moments, it's walls. You can build them.
It sure is walls, so you might roll a brick.
So what the brick does is, in combination with this, so if I roll that, let's see, that and a 4 and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, I can then place a wall from this space to the space I started, anywhere in between there.
Yes, so if you only roll a 1, then you only have the choice of the space you started on, or like that one space you've moved to, but obviously the bigger number gives you more options.
Now what the wall does is prevent people from gaining line of sight to another character.
Yes. Now these are double-sided, and you might notice there's a crease in the middle. That's not because we've like damaged it.
You fold it and you put it on the space.
You're actually supposed to, yeah. So say Nathan wanted to, I don't know, put it here. He can do that if he's rolled a big enough number to get through that space. And he would need to move first.
Yes. So if I did roll this and I happen to be here, I don't have line of sight. I've got to destroy the wall first. Yes, so
he would use then his crosshairs to attack the wall instead of me if there was a wall between us.
And the wall just needs to be attacked once. It doesn't matter about strength. It just
there goes the wall.
Yeah. So obviously you need to be aware of what you roll and how it's going to affect your movement and anything else you've rolled.
The other thing too is if you maybe didn't roll a crosshairs, you just got bandages or something else, and there was a wall, but you rolled a bigger number, you actually have to stop here. You can't go through the wall either. So whatever that wall is on is the space you're staying on and dealing with.
I believe next turn it gets removed.
Yes. So that's another way to get rid of the walls.
Speaking of walls, we have the Boogie Bomb.
Yes.
So if I happen to roll the Boogie Bomb, that deals 1 HP of damage to all players on the board, irrespective of where they are.
Who is playing, how many.
And it destroys all walls on the board. Yeah. They all get removed.
So, which is helpful because if you build up like a few walls, then obviously there's a lot of places people are going to be stopping and not able to attack, which is what kind of moves the game along. So very handy.
That's pretty much the function of this dice. I suppose we should probably discuss the items and the storm. Yes,
so let's grab the storm cards next. So this is a big part of the game. If you go past go, you do have to pick up one of these, and they really don't benefit whoever's picking them up. They're bad for everybody, essentially.
So for instance, I picked up a storm card and it says, place this card on any campfire space. So normally if I landed on a campfire space, I would gain 1 HP. If this was now on here, like this.
Okay. Yep, it means the storm has taken over that location.
And if I happen to land on any non-property spaces with the storm card, I immediately take 2 HP of damage.
Yes.
And also don't get any of the effects of said space.
Yes, so like you can't gain any health from that. The storm is just bad and it's going to hurt you essentially.
So here's another one. It just says choose any location and place that location card storm side up on its space. So let's say I put Tilted Towers, Lazy Links with the Lazy Links card there. If I then flip this over, I now have to pay 5 HP.
Because the storm has taken that location. So you don't want to land on a location with the storm on it. There's a lot more at stake.
Yeah, so you got all the negative numbers on all the properties if you happen to land on it that someone else owns. The storm damage is always higher than the property damage or the location damage. Yeah.
Yes. And it doesn't matter who lands on it either. So say I had Lazy Links and then a storm card covered it. If I land there, I also have to pay 5 HP to the bank. So the longer the game goes on, the more storm cards there are on the board, because obviously you're going past go more times and adding more cards, and it gets a lot more dangerous, which then actually helps to speed up the game, which is good because we found that at the start of the game when we didn't have a lot of storm cards, we would like lose some HP, but then we'd gain some HP. Then we'd lose a little bit, and we kind of just went up and down a lot.
This is one of those ones where it says that you can play with 2 people, but I'd definitely try and go for 3 or more.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's fairly dull right into the late game, and even then it's...
Yeah, I mean, if we just kind of stay away from each other on the board, it's hard to then attack and sort of take any health. So there's a whole bunch of storm cards. Some of them say specific locations.
This one says all other players take turns rolling a numbered die and pay that much HP to the bank. Some of them say people can no longer be sent to jail, and various bits and bobs. Pretty much lift it up, read what it says, and perform the action.
Follow the instructions.
Yeah.
Yep. So our other cards are our loot chest cards, which they actually assist you. So they're the good cards that you want.
So you pick up the loot chest.
Show the
back.
It just has the chest on it.
So you've got like was it rare, common, uncommon, rare, and legendary, or whatever the rating system is in the game. These are legendary, so some of these you can actually keep the entire game and act as a permanent buff. Some
of them are one time only, but they do state that on the card if you can only use them once.
So Bush, Boogie Bombs do not affect you. So if I had this and you rolled a Boogie Bomb, I never take damage from that.
Yes. So I mean, that's a handy one. Depends on how often you roll Boogie Bombs though. So, yeah.
This one's partially broken in my opinion. Yeah. Whenever you roll a crosshair, the targeted player pays 4 HP to the bank instead of the usual 1.
Yes.
So that's quite nasty, and there's 2 of those in there.
Yeah, you got one of those, and that was tricky.
Stink Bomb, same as the last one, except it's only 3 HP to the bank instead of 4.
So again, that speeds up the game, but if you do only have 2 players and someone gets one of these where they can, every time they have crosshairs and you're in their line of sight, can attack you for 3 or 4, and you've only got 15 or less HP, it can go down pretty quick and the game can become one-sided, which is why having more people doing different things is useful.
Yeah. Clear, choose any space. All players in that space must pay 4 HP to the bank, and it says 1-time use only.
See, that one's not that useful unless you've got multiple people playing who have all landed in the same space.
No, it's okay. Just heal yourself 5 HP from the bank. 1-time use only. Bounce a trap. Move any player up to 4 spaces forward or backwards, and they must complete the action space where they land. Pretty good if there happens to be a storm card on one of the high properties, I guess.
Yep. So. Well, then you can. I mean, the highest properties here are 5 HP to the bank when the storm's on them, so that's quite advantageous.
Chug Jug, you basically get full life up to 15.
Which I think I picked up when I had 14 out of 15. I was like, oh, well, I mean, 1 extra's great, but...
I think it does say that if you do have full HP, you can actually keep that card until you don't.
Yeah, so you can hold on to those cards if you can't use it straight away. Right.
So I think that's pretty much it. You keep on...
Jail.
Oh, yes.
Jail actually works slightly differently to a standard Monopoly as well.
You only get 2 rolls to get out instead of 3 for 1.
Also, if you land on go to jail, that does still work in the same way that you do have to go to jail. You then roll and you need to get, was it a 6?
A 6, because there's only 1 die.
Yes. If you don't get the 6, you do have to pay with health. Was it 2?
I think it was 2 health to get out.
Yeah, so, I mean, depending on what point you are in the game, whether it's worth paying some health or not to come out kind of thing. So.
And if a storm card's on there, there's a couple of other different rules regarding it. I think if you're in there and the storm card overtakes it, you don't lose health. Yeah,
there was some weird things. So like if you go there and the storm's there, one thing happens, but if the storm comes in the midst of you being there, and it actually contradicts itself. So I would highly recommend, if you've found this and don't have the instructions, read the actual instructions in the link down below. Maybe you can work it out for us, because the go to jail bit was the bit that kind of lost us a little bit. Yeah. Just with the wording.
It's a minor part of the game. So basically keep going around, the locations fill up with storm cards until someone has no HP, and if you have more than 2 players, you keep going until one last person standing.
Yep, last one standing wins.
Doesn't need to be Monopoly.
Well, I mean, this could just be the Fortnite board game. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's, aside from the corners, it's not really Monopoly anymore. I know there are still locations, but you don't mortgage them, you don't put houses,
you don't buy them.
You don't buy them, yeah, so. I mean, it's probably not for us, but we don't play Fortnite. Maybe if you're watching and you love Fortnite, you're like, yes, this is a great representation.
Well, this was 2013, 2018, so this will be at least 4 years old now. So I think it's probably changed quite a lot since then.
Possibly. If you enjoyed watching this video, give us a thumbs up. Let us know in the comment section down below if this represents Fortnite well, if you're a player of Fortnite.
At least if it did, you know, 4 years ago.
Well, Yeah, or maybe you've played the other one. There is another version. We don't have it, so I don't know whether it is just like updated locations or whether it's totally different gameplay.
Let us know.
Hit that subscribe button and check back soon. We have videos every single Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.